Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Rusty Brown Photography. I am Rusty. So glad you guys are here. Today I'm going to be doing a studio shoot, and I thought it would be a good idea for me to take you guys along with me as part of our 2022 Be Better series, or Be a Better Photographer series. I thought one of the things that I could do today is kind of go into a little more detail about why I use a studio, what some of the benefits are of shooting in the studio, and how shooting in the studio has made me a better photographer, and it can make you better also. So before we head over, I wanted to cover something that's pretty important with regards to shooting in the studio, and that's the things you do the day before. So real quickly, I wanted to talk about that. So yesterday, what I did was I made sure that everything in my bag was good to go, that I got all the right lenses, that those lenses are clean, that I have the number of bodies, camera bodies that I'm going to take, that I have fresh memory cards, the number that I would normally use, that I have enough fully charged batteries as well. Secondly, what I did was I had the last conversation, the last check-in with the model that I'm going to be working with today to go over what we're doing today. We had had a couple of pings before, but now that it's time to actually do the shoot, I like to coordinate with my model the day before, and we cover things like the number of sets we think we're going to have today, why we're there today, wardrobe, hair, makeup, timing, sets, just things like that, so there's really no surprises. So that's important if you're going to be using your local studio, to not wait until the day of. Today is the day of. Yesterday was the day before. That's when you want to make sure everything is right so that you can just grab your bag and your gear, get in your vehicle, and head over to the studio, which I'm about to do right now. So I'm going to head over to the studio. We'll pick up the conversation from there. We'll go through the entire afternoon shooting, and then eventually we'll get back here this evening for a recap. All right? Let's head over to the studio. Okay, welcome to Union 206 Studios in Alexandria, Virginia. I will leave a link to the studio in the description. There are a couple of studios that I use in Northern Virginia, but primarily this would be what I call my home studio. I am a member here. Within Union 206, there are 3 different studios. Studio A is behind me. I'm in Studio B. Studio C is this way. This is the smallest of the 3, and I find it the more intimate if you're going to be shooting one person, maybe 2. I've done up to 4, but if you're going to do large groups, families, things like that, you definitely want to go to Studio A. Studio C, I've never used because it's massive. Typically used for making small films, music videos, things like that. So I know the area pretty well. I've worked here a lot, so my regular routine, when I first get here, the first thing I like to do is unpack my bag, put my lenses on the camera table. I put my book, my notepad, because you got to have a shot sheet. Any props and things like that that I'm going to use, I get all of that there. The next thing I do is, because I've already had a conversation with today's model, who I will introduce you to at some point here. She's around here somewhere. I'll find her and we'll introduce you to her. Is Kat. Kat is not just a really, really good model. She's an amazing talent, and I will put her contact information in the description as well. But because we've already talked about what we're going to do today, what I'll do is I'll start taking a look at wardrobe. We'll pick out what we're going to use today. And for today's set, in 3 hours, I'm going to get what I call 6 sets. 3 different backgrounds with at least 2 wardrobe changes per. If we end up doing 7 or more, that's all bonus. And when you look at a studio environment like this one, the reason that I like it is because there's so many different backgrounds in a small space. Here, what I'm going to use today, I'm going to use 3. Over here, we have one that's set up with a really nice wood background. Over here, off camera, we have one with a nice brick background. And then again, behind me, we have one with a nice fake green, kind of vine, grass-looking background. The ones that I probably won't use, but I might. We have the big red wall there. We have a black one here behind these lights, and we have a blue one over in the corner. You'd be surprised how fast your time goes by. So you really want to have one of these or something like it so that you can have an idea of what you're going to do today. Once we get all that set, I know the order in which that we're going to go. So I will set up these lights, and there are others that you can't see, but one of the things I like about Union 206, when you get here, they have 4 lights ready to go. And you can mix and match them any way you want. You can put them on a crane, you can put them on a boom, you can have big soft boxes, small soft boxes. I don't get really complicated with the light. We'll talk about that a little bit more later in the video. You'll see how I set up my lights. But once we've gone through wardrobe, we know what we're going to do first. I will set up the first set, and then we'll go from there. So that's it. We go through and start shooting after that. Once we're ready to move on to another set, we basically take 10-minute break. She gets to go change makeup, hair, whatever. I got to break down all these lights and move them to the next set, readjust them to align with the camera settings. Speaking of camera settings, do you remember this clip? I always start at 1/160th of a second on the shutter speed. I go to f7.1 for my aperture, and I go to an ISO maximum of 200, probably more like 160. Now that was from my second episode of Rusty Brown Photography, and it was talking about indoor flash photography, but not with strobes. Those were with single flashes. So my go-to settings here in this studio, right off the bat, would be 1/160th of a second, ISO 100 to 125, f-stop, f10, f11. I'll come down to f8 sometimes, but I want a really, really sharp photo. When I'm in this environment, I'm not trying to create bokeh. I'm trying to create sharpness, and that's a big difference for me. So I'll start with those settings, and I'll adjust accordingly, because obviously some backgrounds are lighter, some clothing will have a different hue and reflective ability on it. Reflective tendencies to them, which could cause a change in your lighting. The furniture, there's all types of things in the studio that could cause those base settings to change. The one that I usually don't change at all, ISO. I will adjust the power in these lights. I will adjust my shutter speed. I will adjust my f-stop. And again, the beauty of these lights, think of them like a prime lens. You can raise them, lower them, you can get closer, further away, you can give them more power, less power to find the balance of light that you want for your shot. But what I don't want to do is inject additional noise by going with a high ISO. So that's pretty much it. You'll see some shots of me today working with Kat as we go through our session and do the shoot, and I'll show you what I do when it's time to break it down. Thank you. Okay, we're back to where we started. It was a wonderful shoot today, a long 3 hours, but I think we got a lot done. I think we got the shots that we wanted. So no matter how much time you have the studio rented for, when you get to the point where you only have 30 minutes left, one of the staffers will come in and tell you, you have to be ready and done at the end of that hour, whatever the end of the time is that you're here, whether you're here for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. Whenever your end time comes, you have to be walking out the door. So what I like to do when I get the 30-minute warning, if I'm still shooting, I will wrap that up. Excuse me, I like to give myself 20 minutes, break down all the lights, put everything back, give the power cords back to the staff, make sure that I've got everything that I came here with on the set. We'll do all of those different things, and then it'll be time to walk out. So again, let's head back over to the home studio and we'll close out the video. Thanks. All right, guys, we are finally back home in the home studio. Quite a long afternoon, but I think it was well worth it. So what I want to do now is kind of just do a review of some of the things that you saw when we were out there today. So just from today alone, as I said while we were at the studio, I had 5 or 6 sets targeted. More specifically, there were 4 that I really wanted to get, but we ended up getting 7. Set 1 was the KOC promo, which is a Kings of Coffee promo that I wanted to do for that's for a YouTube channel and podcast that I run called Kings of Coffee. The second set that I wanted to get was also Kings of Coffee. So we did 2 of those with 2 different outfits in the same set. The third set we did is what I call Whispers. So I'll explain that to you real briefly, and most of you probably don't even know who the Whispers are because you're just young. But back in the day, I want to say it was in the 80s, there was a music video called In the Mood or something like that. Hopefully I can put a piece of it here on there without any copyright, or at least I'll put a link in the description. And this was back when music videos first started. I always loved that video. The premise of In the Mood was you have a guy who's getting off work and he's getting ready to go home, but his friends are like, hey, do you want to hang out? And he's like, nope, because my lady's waiting for me at home. And the video basically shows the lady waiting for her guy to get home. So after she comes out of the shower, you see her just kind of around the house or the apartment or whatever it is, and she's in a man's dress shirt and she's just kind of, you know, messing about until he gets there. I always liked that video and I always liked that set, and it's been one of the shots that I've been wanting to recreate for a number of years. The challenge is you can't recreate every shot that you like with just anyone. So maybe a year or so ago was the first time that I worked with Kat, and after working with her we had such a good vibe. I'm thinking to myself, she could be the Whispers girl because she's got a natural fro, she's got the right energy, and I think it would just work. So when we were planning the shoot for today, I wanted to get the Whispers set in, and that's what set 3 was. And that was a long set. Sofa, brick wall, white shirt, that's it. Set 4 was actually what we call a bonus set. That's when we had the salmon colored top on in the same area. Set 5 is something that I call jeans. And those of you that know me know that I've been working on a project for a number of years and will continue to, and it's just called jeans. So now whenever I go out to a studio or anywhere to do a shoot with someone, I try to at least get that person in jeans. Sometimes, like today, it was pre-coordinated, so I'll let the model know, hey, I want to spend some time with a jean set. Sometimes I forget and I don't get to pre-coordinate, but more times than not, every model that I've worked with will have some kind of jeans, even if it's just the jeans that she wore to the shoot, and I try to capture that. So today, when we did jeans, Kat was ready for it. She wanted to do jeans with this type of crop top and some knee-high boots, and I think it really came out nicely. So that was intentional. We wanted to get that, which was set 5 was jeans. Set 6 was the Have You Seen It promo. Have You Seen It is a YouTube channel and podcast that I produce that's about movie reviews and such. So the one set that we did over on the green wall where Kat had, you know, she was looking at the phone and she had headphones on. She was listening to a podcast called Have You Seen It? And I wanted to capture that for a promo shot. And then 7 was another bonus set where she had the blue top on with the black pants. All in all, today, I shot 1,641 total shots. And if you remember from one of the earlier videos last year, we talked about the importance of having a workflow. I'll try to put a link to that somewhere here. I have since culled those images here, and it went like this. From 1641 down to 573, from 573 down to 240, from 240 down to 115, 115 down to 67 keepers. That is less than 5%. And that's a full day's work. So the one thing that I can tell you is, without having looked at every single image that I'm going to keep, is that I'm really happy with how today went. And that's because I knew in advance what I was going in there to get. And that is critically important if you're going to work in a studio, because you'll be surprised how quickly the time goes by and you lose track of time. And it's nothing worse than spending your money or your client's money in a studio and getting back and realizing you didn't get the shot that you wanted. So I wanted to give you a couple of quick notes that I took down after I got home today about why I think studio shooting is important and how it can help us all be better this year and be a better photographer. The number one reason I like studio photography is because I control everything. You're in a studio, so that means I control the environment, I control the lighting, I control the pace. Let's talk about pace for a second. I'm often asked, why do you do 3-hour shoots? It's because I don't like to rush. I'm a golfer. Not good at that either, but I like to golf. And one of the things that bothers me most about golf is if I'm out there, we're having a good time, I think we're going at a good pace, but somebody keeps hitting up behind me and coming up on me. I don't like to play golf rushed. I surely don't like to work in the studio rushed. So knowing that I wanted to get 4 to 5 sets today, I booked 3 hours so that I can have enough time. Within that 3 hours this afternoon, probably 2 hours and 10 minutes of that was actually shooting. As we talked about while at the studio, a lot of it is coordination and looking at wardrobe, 10-minute breaks between sets. A lot of those were actually only 3 to 4 minutes today because, again, Kat really knows what she's doing and we were kind of stepping through it at a decent pace, but again, not rushed. As I said at the end, I like to leave myself enough time to break down all of that stuff. The other thing that I want you to remember here is that I'm not a pro. I don't get paid to do this. This isn't what I do for a living. Consequently, I don't have an assistant when I go into the studio. So I have to do everything. I'm the stage manager. I have to get the set right. I'm the guy that approves the wardrobe based on what we're collaborating on and what we're going to shoot. That takes time. I'm the DJ. The soundtrack that's playing all day, that's my music list based on whatever vibe that model has that day. I have to change the lights for each and every set. Even if we're on the same set, if the clothing changes, more times than not, the position is going to change, the hair is going to change, or the props are going to change. I have to adjust the lighting. And in many cases, that's a total breakdown and move those lights from one part of the studio to the next. So the last thing that I want to do is book 2 hours and have to rush through all of that and still be composed when I'm getting my shots. So you have to determine if it's worthwhile to you to take a 2-hour shoot and make it 3 hours. But for me, I just like the flexibility I have with the time. And this afternoon, I was done and out the door 10-15 minutes before my time was up because I got the shots that I wanted. So I would recommend that you overbook than underbook because, again, that time goes by really, really quickly. To fully gain the benefits of a studio shoot, coordination and communication are key. Have a plan. Why are you there? Is it for a client? Is it for you? Is it because you're trying to recreate some shots like I was doing today? You must have some kind of plan. It doesn't have to be ironclad, meaning that you have to just do that and that only. Oftentimes, just like today, if you look at when we were doing the Have You Seen It set, it went so well and so fast, we just started grooving and vibing, and then the headphones were gone, the iPhone was gone, and she was just playing with the set, and we captured that. You will get bonus sets, but you got to go in with a plan. Also, going in with a plan communicates confidence to the folks that you're working with, whether it's one model like Kat or multiple people. You are the person that has to be in control of that environment while you're in that studio. And having a plan means that you can step through it and you can feel good about yourself, because trust me, when you're in there, time is moving quickly and things can take you off your game. So between every set, I always go back to this guy to say, hey, what's in here? What are we supposed to be getting next? Just to make sure I stay on track. Another benefit of being in the studio is you have on-site assistants. not an assistant, but assistants. So having a staff studio is good, so if a light blows out or something, they can replace it. You need to find a particular type of modifier. If you know your studio, like I know 206, you know where all that stuff is kept. You may have noticed in one of the earlier sets that I came back with a tree because I wanted to see some green in that particular shot. So understanding your studio and where you can get the assistants is important, and they have everything you need. You just have to know what you need, which kind of goes back to what we just talked about, having a plan, right? Last thing I'll say is this: most studios have some form of orientation. I recommend being a part of a studio, and I really recommend that you go through that orientation. Fun fact, I actually started getting into studio photography well before Union 206. I think one of the best kept secrets that not a lot of people use is your local community college. You can sign up for a workshop, you can sign up for a class like I did, which is a full-blown semester, half semester, whatever, or you can sign up for something that's unique to that particular community college. But the point is, that's where you learn the basics. I didn't cover any of the basics today. If it's something that you're interested in, let me know and I'll put a separate video together. And when I talk about the basics, I'm talking about studio safety, understanding how powerful those lights are, how to manage your cord distribution system on the floor so nobody's tripping and one of those big cranes doesn't fall over. There is a rhythm, if you will, to managing your time in the studio. And I really got comfortable with mine at Northern Virginia Community College by going through workshops. They bring in, for example, student models to help you start working on that. So the benefits that you get in that environment where it doesn't cost you money are numerous. But if you don't want to do that, or that's not something you're interested in, check with your local studio and go through an orientation. You'll be glad you did, because you'll know where the props are, you know who to call for help, and you know those kinds of things. The other thing you could do too, if you have someone knowledgeable, bring an assistant with you. Sometimes I'll have a makeup artist, but it really depends on who I'm working with. And today I was working with Kat. We'd worked together before. She does her own makeup. I was good to go. So that's pretty much it for today. I just wanted to bring you guys along and show you why I use a studio and how a studio can really help you hone in on your skills. So if you are a studio photographer and you're not a pro and you have a local studio, let me know. Let me know what your studio experience is like. It doesn't mean that you have to always be in the studio, but having one available to you that you can use whenever you want, when you don't have to depend on the weather, can be a huge time saver and can be the difference between you getting the shot and not getting a shot. And again, remember, for 2022, our theme is be better, be a better photographer. Let me know how your journey is going so far in 2022 in anything that you're doing to be a better photographer. That's it for now. I look forward to talking to you guys in the next episode. Take care.